go ahead and hit record.
Yeah.
All right. Mike Sancho, welcome to the Millionaire's Mike. We're so excited to have you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Of course. Yeah, we're going to dive into, you are, I think, one of the coolest entrepreneurs I think that we've gotten to see. You just are in so many different businesses. You've been so successful with so many of them. So we're excited to kind of know all the specifics. Obviously,
sure.
We'll get into the $10 million ClickFunnels award that you have. I mean, you're stacked. Your credits are amazing. So we're excited to dive on in.
Yeah, thank you. No, I'm excited to be here and looking forward to it, guys.
Thank you. So the floor is yours.
The floor is mine.
The
You
floor
want me
is
to kick it off? Oh, all right.
Well, who are you and how did
So,
we get here?
Okay, this is a very
let's start
deep
there.
spiritual question.
I know.
Who am I? Who am I? It's
Yeah.
like you look in the mirror. Who am I?
Right.
Like, there's a lot of ways that you could answer that question, right? I think right off the bat, when you ask who am I would say that I identify naturally as an entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm.
And, that's really what I've always sort of identified as. I feel like, growing up, I was kind of the kid that I refer to as the why kid. Like, I would always ask questions. And I think this is what led on my natural path of, like, curiosity and wanting to get into business because as a young child, you're always told what to do, where to go, what to think. They go to school, jam all this stuff down your throat. And I was the kid that would sit back and say, well, why? And it would tick off my parents. They hated it because I was asking why for everything.
Yeah.
And their answer was always like, well, this is just what people do, right? And I didn't accept that answer. And what if I do this differently, or why this or why that? And so my natural sort of curiosity growing up, my parents kind of, prescribed to me the general game plan for life, which is the 40-40-40 rule, which is, work really hard, go to school, get good grades, work 40 hours a week for 40 years, and then try and retire off of 40% of your income. And I'm like, I don't like this plan.
Yeah,
I'm like,
no.
how I was looking at people that were wealthy and they're rich. They do whatever they want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, how did these people, like, what's different about them? Like, why are some people able to do what they want to do and others are just like, they kind of go through life as like, life just kind of happens to me.
Mm-hmm.
I just, try and play it small, play it safe. And so, not to go too super deep because we'll leave room for all the questions, but I started inventing stuff when I was like 7 years old.
Oh, wow.
So I would watch those old infomercials, all those commercials where it's like, but wait, there's more,
Yeah.
right? And then have all these little cool, like, gimmicky products and all this stuff. So I was like, oh, this is cool. Let me try and invent this stuff. And I was having my mom try and push through patents for me when I was like a little kid.
Wow.
Wait, you did patents when you were like
Yeah.
7?
Yeah, well, we didn't
even
get
know what
anything patented.
I didn't even
I was
know what
trying.
a patent was.
My inventions weren't that good. So, 7 years old.
But still, to have that like thought process of
Yeah.
like, oh, well, I created this thing, I should get a patent on it. Like most kids don't even know what that is.
True. And so that, that just kind of led me on this path of like always wanting to do something different. And then I was sort of naturally rebellious. So like when I was pretty young, I got into, doing bad things as a kid, getting in trouble, going out and smoking weed, doing all sorts of things that, just being a degenerate, rebellious kid. And, that kind of led into my entrepreneurial career. Actually, my earliest entrepreneurial business was as a cannabis distribution company as a 12-year-old. And
Wait, back up. You just said as a 12-year-old?
Yeah. So,
what he said, yeah.
I'll show you how the math breaks down.
Dare didn't work on you, did
So,
it?
no. Well, I would go and buy a little bit of weed, and I was like, well, I could, if I buy in a little bit of bulk, right? If I buy like a quarter or like a half of an ounce, and I sell most of it to my friends, I'm going to be able to smoke a portion for free, or I can make profit. And this was like my first introduction to like wholesale. Buy in bulk, redistribute at retail. And so
I'm laughing because
it's
I'm
funny.
just like in disbelief at like
It's funny.
12 years
I know.
old. You did all of this. That's genius. But also
Yeah.
I'm like, what the fuck?
So you
Yeah.
joined the Costco of cannabis at 12 years old.
Yeah.
Essentially.
So I laugh, I joke, I say I started a cannabis distribution company. I mean, I was just doing it on the side with my friends, but I started to take it more serious though as I got into high school, and I started to scale and expand my distribution network, and I started to go up the supply chain and look for, different distribution networks where I could buy in larger and larger bulk So you can, it's the same concepts apply in e-commerce and distribution and
Right.
manufacturing.
Yeah.
The further you go up the supply chain, the cheaper you're getting your product for, the larger your profit margins.
Right.
Now, it ended up getting me in a little bit of trouble.
I was gonna say, I was like, I feel like that's not legal. But
It wasn't at the time. Well, now it is. I mean, now you can grow weed, you can sell it. They got stores all up and down the street. But when I was in high school, I'm 31 now, so this was like, 15, 14 years ago or so. And so, I started, going up the supply chain, expanding, and I actually got expelled from high school as a senior. So I got
Whoa.
caught at school with an ounce of weed. And so it was my senior year. I was a couple months into my senior year, and I got kicked out of school. I got arrested. They did the whole thing.
Oh my god.
And I was at this time, I didn't really know my path in my future, and I didn't really know where I was going. I just knew that I wanted to be successful. I kind of knew that in my core. I knew that, what I was doing, I was just kind of having fun doing it. It was, kind of fun to do bad things as a kid and, be sort of mischievous. And, honestly, to be fully, truthful with you guys at the time, I was looking for influences and mentors that I could follow because I was always wanting to be wealthy, right? So who was I looking at? Well, I was watching movies like Scarface. I was watching movies like Blow, like Johnny, and I'm seeing these big, drug dealers and kingpins and mafiosas, and it's like these guys do what they want to do. They go out and make a ton of money, and they live the life they want to live. And the school system and my parents were not showing me a path to that because I was the kid in school where they would literally give you a list, right, in class. And they would say, these are all the careers that you can be in life. And this is how much money they all make. And the list would cap at the top. It was like doctor, lawyer.
Right.
They left out business owner, investor, sales, unlimited income, right? So I genuinely didn't know. And I was like, well, I guess the only way I'm going to be able to go be successful is to build, an illegal, illicit business in a drug empire. And so I was actually motivated by these movies. And I at the time, my ambition was to be a really large drug dealer. And I wanted to go.
that was the goal at that time.
That was the goal
Not
when
even
I was
just
in
weed,
high school.
We're just going
No, because I expanded into other product lines that was in college. So I didn't quit after the first round. I was like, you know what? Because you get a slap on the wrist when you're a kid.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So I was 17, the police station, they try and scare you. They put you in the holding cell and they release you the next day and your parents come in, and then the police sit you down. They're like, who's your supplier? And we can send you to prison and all this stuff. And like, they try and rattle you.
Yeah.
But as a kid, they just kind of slap you on the wrist. You're under 18. They wipe it off your record. I took online classes and still got my high school diploma. So there was no like long-term pain with it, right? So I was able to get a fresh restart. And so, at that point, initially I was like, I don't know which way I want to go. I knew that I was supposed to go to college because that was, again, sort of the prescribed plan for me. But if I had known that I could just go jump in and be an entrepreneur, go start a legitimate business, I totally would have gone that route looking back because I learned virtually nothing from college.
Right.
All I learned was,
Like
it
How
was
to be an
just
employee.
it was just more partying, having fun, doing drugs, drinking,
Yep.
girls, all that kind of stuff. And so that's really what I used it for. And
Didn't we all?
yeah. And I kind of got taught a bad lesson though in applying for college because of my record and what I did in high school. So I went and applied to 10 different colleges, right? And on the applications, they always ask you, well, did you get in trouble before? Have you
Yeah.
ever been arrested? This stuff. And so like on 8 of the applications, right, I told them all the truth. And I said, I got kicked out of school. I got arrested. These are all the lessons I've learned. This is why it's going to make me a much better person for, your school and all that stuff. And so I told the truth to 8. And then 2 of them, I just left it off. I said, no, I've never been in trouble. Well, what do you think happened? I got denied by 8 schools, and I got accepted by 2. So
Right.
what's the lesson there?
Right.
You get rewarded for lying or whatever it is.
Right.
So, and I didn't get to go to the schools that I wanted to go to, but I ended up going to Florida Southern College in Central Florida here in Lakeland.
Okay.
And so I moved down I was in Connecticut. I grew up in Connecticut. I was born and raised there.
Okay.
And so I flew down. And the first year, I didn't get in any trouble. I wasn't doing anything wrong. I was just, having fun, living life, but you know, I had no money, and I was like, well, what do I do to make money? And again,
back to your roots.
yeah, kind of slipped back into the same thing, but something unique happened in college. This is where my mindset was shifted because I got introduced for the first time to personal development, mentorship, like real entrepreneurship. And it was
in college.
in
or
college,
because
yeah.
You
Okay.
met people
Yep,
around?
it was
Okay.
because of network marketing. So
Okay.
I got
Okay.
pitched by my friends on a network marketing opportunity, this company called Vima, and it was an energy drink multi-level marketing company, right?
Okay.
And so they burst into my dorm room one day and they're like, yo, try this drink. Like, it's this healthy energy drink, yada, yada, yada. And they explained to me the business model of basically going out and building a sales organization and getting lots of people on a subscription, a recurring revenue business model where I'm earning overrides off of the sales organization. And if I can build a large enough team, I could make $50,000 a month, hundreds. There was kids my age in college that I was seeing make $100,000 a month, $250,000 a month, some of them even $500,000 a month, and they're in their 20s. And I was like blown away. I was like, wait, so like there's other alternatives to go and make these sums of money and do it completely legally. But the biggest catalyst for me at that time was that they gave me 2 books when I signed up. Right, so you had to go buy the drinks to enroll and be a part of it, and then they put you on that auto renewal. So each month you're buying the drinks, but they said, hey, here's Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, and here's Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki.
Yep.
And I was 19. And up until this point, I thought that I hated reading, didn't really care about learning. You know, it was all what is shoved down my throat going to school. You know, you memorize pointless facts and history books and things you don't want to read. So I was like, I don't like reading, but I did it. I did what they said I should do. And then these books were instruction manuals on how to build wealth and live a life and do exactly what you want to do and get everything you could ever want. And I was like, damn, I actually like reading. I like learning. I want more and more of this. So I went out and I started building a team. But at the time, I still wasn't like fully in on it. I was doing a little bit of both. I was still selling drugs at the time. I was actually encouraging people to come to my network marketing pitch by giving them small amounts of weed. So I'd be like, hey, just come by. I'll give you, $10 worth of weed, like, and let me hear my pitch. And then I would give them the pitch, and they're like, yeah, it's a pyramid scheme, but I'll take like the weed and go, like,
It's a lead
so
magnet.
Yeah.
yeah. So everyone, they told me it's a pyramid scheme. My parents told me, oh, this is, stupid. Like, you're getting ripped off. It's a scam and all this stuff. But I built an organization of about 150 people.
Wow.
I was making a little bit of money. I made a couple $1,000s. It wasn't much. And then it sort of fizzled out on my campus. And, I just didn't take it super serious at the time. But it started the clock, or like the shift in my mind of like, okay, like there's other alternatives here. And so, but I was still naturally like at that time in the mindset of like, I'm still just, I want to do drugs and like party and go to music festivals. And like, I wasn't really ready for like the maturity of it all yet. And so I kept going and doing what I was doing. And I started to scale up my business on campus. And by my final year as a senior, I was pretty sizable. It's a smaller campus, a couple of thousand students, but I was like the primary distributor for the school in like different, things. So I was going in and I expanded into a couple other product lines, again, like Xanax and like a little bit of like Molly and ecstasy and all that kind of stuff, the party stuff for
Yeah, of course.
people in college. And then my story kind of repeated, right? I got caught as a senior, and this time it was a little more serious because I was a little more intense
adult.
at this time. And so 3 months before I was supposed to graduate, I got, they kicked in my door and came in, the police came in, and like they basically raided my house, went in my safe, and they found like a pound of weed. They found like 40 ecstasy pills, like 300 Xanax, bunch of money, cash, Molly, all this stuff. And so like
Oh, no.
at that point, that gave me the real wake up call, because when I was a kid, like at 17 in high school, it didn't really register. But this time they threw me straight into county jail, Polk County, Frostproof. And
Whoa.
there was people in there that, they're like career criminals, and they're just like, you know, I'm sitting in the cell with like, you know, there's potentially murderers, rapists, like attempted murder, aggravated assault, like all different types of like people in there. And I didn't just stay in like a holding cell for a night and then like they sent me out. Like they shipped me down the road. They put me in like a jail transport van. I was all shackled up and they brought me to, you know, the county jail, and then they arraigned me first thing in the morning, set my bail, and like it was more serious. And then like they came, like I was in the jail, you know, for a couple, like probably only about 2 weeks until my parents like bailed me out. And then I went through the whole process with everything. Thankfully, you know, I was potentially facing a significant amount of prison time. In Florida, they have what's called mandatory minimum sentencing guidelines. And I came like this close to breaching that threshold of where I would have had a 3-year prison sentence, mandatory minimum.
Wow.
Which means you can't negate it. Yeah,
Right.
you can't. There's no getting around that. It's like you have 3 years in prison. We're shipping you off for the next 3 years. And I was like a 21-year-old kid.
Oh my
And so like
God.
this really jarred me at the time. And so they said if you had like another like ecstasy pill, it would have pushed it over the threshold for like the MDMA, and I would have been like 3 years in prison. And so I luckily, since at that time I didn't have a criminal record because all my juvenile stuff was cleared. And so they allowed me to basically do like a plea with my lawyer. So I basically pled guilty or whatever. And then they reduced my charges just to felony possession, not intent to distribute. And so they gave me 2 years of probation. And so I like luckily got out of that, but I got kicked out of school. It was a big thing. And I got shipped to go live with my parents in Charleston, South Carolina. And at the time I was just like super down, but I remember there was a distinct moment when I was in the jail cell for the first time where I kind of had like what I describe as my like line in the sand moment, where I was actually really motivated by what was happening to me. Like, yes, I felt like sorry for myself and all the things that you can go into and like, you know, just going down the rabbit hole of negative thought and negativity. But I was like, I'm going to like do this like line in the sand, and I'm going to like do a full 180 on my life, and I'm going to come out and I'm just going to do, you know, I'm just going to go crazy. I'm going to outwork everybody. I'm just going to absolutely blow up and like become super successful and use this as like my driving force. And I'm going to do it the right way. And I'm going to do it 100% legal, and I'm going to be an entrepreneur, because I was thinking back to like the Rich Dad Poor Dad, the Think and Grow Rich. And I was like, there's other ways to do this. And so that was a big moment for me in changing everything.
Yeah,
That's
man.
crazy. Wait, were you making good money though as a drug dealer, like in high school
honestly,
and then in college? Like
I was like doing most of my profit margin. I was like doing a lot of drugs at the time. I was basically
So
like,
you were eating your profit money.
yeah,
you were like
I was,
drugs for
you
free.
know, I was making a little bit of money, but you know, for me,
Nothing
it was more
crazy.
about just sort of fueling what I was doing. And I was already intending to quit when I graduated. I was
Right.
going to go be a real estate broker, because I was
Okay.
watching, I think at the time, like the $1 Million Listing show with like
Yeah.
Brian Serhant,
Yep.
like $1 Million Listing New York, LA, Josh Altman. And I was like, okay, like this looks really cool. And I was always fascinated with real estate. Once I read Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki, I started learning a lot about real estate investing. So I was already planning to stop doing this stuff, and it was sort of trickling out. And it was like just my luck that, you know, everything sort of crumbled and blew up in my face. But it was a huge motivating factor for me. I feel like those moments in my life have made me super strong, right? And it's allowed me to bounce back. And it's also taught me a lot about people that are around you and in your circle, because a lot of times, you know, you think that a lot of the people around you are for you, or that they want what's best for you. And each time I went through one of these experiences, both in high school and in college, all my friends sort of just like disappeared and scattered.
Yeah.
And suddenly they weren't picking up my calls or texting me. And so I was like, it really taught me a lot about human behavior and just understanding that, you know, I need to do what I'm going to do in this life for me. Because if I'm allowing other people and their limiting beliefs and their opinions to affect the actions that I'm taking and the outcomes that I'm going to get, I'm going to live a watered down version of my life, and I'm not going to be able to go to like my maximum capacity. So like I had, you know, as we all do, I cared a lot about what other people thought and other people's opinions.
Yeah.
But these moments in my life when everyone just sort of abandoned me and I felt very alone, taught me to not give a shit what anyone thinks. And so I was like, I'm just going to go out and do what I got to do, because when you start taking your first steps as an entrepreneur, you are immediately getting a lot of resistance and, hate and people trying to pull you down, especially from your old life. They say it's like the bucket of crabs analogy. I don't know if you guys have ever heard that, or like how a crab trap works. When a crab trap comes in and the crabs all go in through the top remains open. But the crabs, as they try and, crawl out, the other crabs will actually pull them back down. So much to the point where they'll actually pull off the limbs of the other crabs to keep them from rising. And it's similar in life and in your environment, and the people that know you for your past self. A lot of times you'll hear oh, well, you think you're better than us now, or who do you think you are? And it's like, man, I thought that we were friends. I thought that, people that were close to me would want what's best for me. And it's just not the case, So
I think that's really inspiring, though, how after all of the stuff that you went through and you're like in jail, you're like, you know what, I'm going to actually come out even stronger than this.
Right.
I think a lot of people would be like, you know what, I'm done, like throwing in the towel, like this
over.
wasn't worth it. Yeah, life's over. Like, what have I become type of thing. And you like totally turn that around. I think that's like really inspiring that
Thank
you
you,
totally
thank you.
switched gears.
I mean, for me, the main thing that I was hearing was like, you get a lot of knowledge on business.
Yeah. I mean, that's like probably the best first. I mean, with
Yeah.
any business, legal or not legal, obviously, the
Yeah.
legal one is
better.
preferred option.
Better. Yeah.
But you
Less
still,
trouble.
less trouble,
Less
less
issue.
prison. It's,
Yeah, exactly.
works out better when it's legal.
Yeah.
But I mean, you still learn so much going through that whole process, no matter like what you're going through.
I credit, my success, a lot of my success, to those initial experiences, because then from there, so I was on probation for 2 years. I couldn't leave the county I was in with my parents, and so I couldn't go anywhere, and I couldn't drink, I couldn't use drugs, I couldn't do anything. So I was completely sober, because I would check in with the probation officer, they would drug test me, all that stuff. So I said, okay, well, how can I maximize this time, and what am I going to do? And I just literally went like an insane person into like working jobs and also learning as much as I possibly could. So the first day I got to Charleston, I went down the main strip and I just applied at like every place, because I owed my parents about $20,000 for the lawyer they hired for me. And, I still had like $100,000 in student loan debts, and I had nothing. I had nothing. And so I went up and down the street and I applied at basically every spot. And then the next day I got 2 calls back, and I took the first 2 jobs that I got offered, which one was washing dishes at a restaurant called 82 Queen, and the other was working at Subway as a sandwich artist.
I was going to ask you
for
about that,
$7.50. Yeah. So, I'm getting paid $10 an hour as a dishwasher, $7.50 as a sandwich artist.
So raking it.
Yeah. And so this is what I did. I said, dude, load me up on the hours. I'm about to go crazy. I'm gonna work like 80, 90 hours a week, make as much money as I can. And then when I'm not working, I'm going to take courses. I'm going to learn investing. I'm going to learn business. I'm just going to start learning and just start literally, who are the mentors that I can learn from? What are businesses that I can do? How can I build something and be an entrepreneur and scale up? And so what's funny is I took the saying, like, how you do anything is how you do everything. And so I went into these businesses to work, and I would work like a morning shift at Subway. I'd get up at like 6 a.m., go in, work till like 4 p.m., and then I would go to the restaurant and I'd work from like 5 p.m. to like midnight. And I would do that virtually like 6 to 7 days a week.
Wow.
Because I was just in hustle mode. Like, my mindset was so pure and I was just so motivated. It is insane. Like, I haven't even been able to find that same level of motivation again, because at that time I was just so dialed. And there was no distractions. I had no friends. I had nothing on the weekends. I wasn't going out drinking, partying, doing anything. I was literally studying or I was working. And so what I did, though, which is funny, is you go to these jobs, right? Yeah. And people are always complaining about what their job is or what they're doing. Always. And I was like, dude, this is going to be so easy to outwork everybody here. And so I got promoted like crazy, because all I would do is, when I worked at Subway, I would go in a little bit earlier, right? So I'd show up like 30 minutes or so before my shift. And before I clocked in, I would just start, straightening out the chip bags. I would like clean under the oven. I'd go clean the toilet in the bathroom, right? So before I clocked in, and the owner, mind you, they're seeing this. They're like, what is this kid doing? Like, I've never seen anyone do it. What's wrong with him?
Why is he
And
doing
then,
so much?
why does he care so much? Why does he actually care about his job and what he's doing, right? And then I would clock in. I would work as hard as I could all day. And then I was very good customer service, outgoing. And then at the end of the time, when it's time to clock out, I'd clock out on time. But then I wouldn't just bail. I'd stick around for like 15, 20 minutes, make sure that the next shift was prepped with everything that they needed. I would, tidy up again, clean the bathroom again, and I'd be out. And then I took other people's shifts whenever they couldn't work.
Okay.
Wow.
Those are the only things I did.
You
Okay.
were every employer's dream.
Yeah.
Guess what? Well, within a month, 1 month, all right, mind you, I'm 21. They make me the whole store manager.
Oh my God.
Mind you, people have been working there
course.
like 6-7 years. These, they just don't give a fuck.
Right.
Like they're the people that are doing as little work as they possibly can do. They're in the back sitting on their phone. Sometimes we'd find them hiding in the freezer or hiding in a closet, literally just standing there just to avoid doing simple work.
Yeah.
And so all I had to do was actually care and do the job and immediately get promoted and make more money. And so within a month, they made me the store manager, which a lot of the people there weren't happy with. Number one, a 21-year-old kid, and they're like 30, 40 years old,
course.
whatever. And then within another month and a half, they made me an assistant general manager of 5 locations.
Wow.
So within 2.5 months, I went from making $7.50 an hour to like I was making like $60,000 a year on salary at Subway. Also at the other restaurant, I did the same exact thing. So I would show up a little earlier. I would go so intense on washing the dishes. Like people would come into the dish room, they'd be like, "You're done already?" Like I was like, "Give me more, like give me more dishes." Like, and I would fucking like fire them through. Like literally, I would just be so like jazzed up in my mind because I knew where I was going. Like I would compartmentalize my future life in the back of my head, and I would live in paradise because I'm a very futuristic person. If you guys have ever taken the Clifton Strengths Assessment by Gallup, it's a good assessment for assessing employees. My number 1 strength is futuristic.
Okay.
My number 2 strength is competition. So I'm always living in the future in my mind state, where a lot of people, they get trapped in today's reality. They live where they're at today in their situation, and they become demotivated by where they're at now. I'm always looking at where I'm going. So I'm calculating based on the compound effect of my actions today.
Yeah.
Where is this leading me 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years? So I've already planned out like my whole life from like my death backwards. And so I have the whole thing like calculated out. So I'm making the decisions today so that 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 15 years from now, I'm living and doing whatever I want to be doing. And so at the time, and it's funny because I would tell my coworkers, I'd be like, "Yeah, I'm going to be a millionaire. I'm going to do this and that." And they'd laugh. They'd be
Like,
so
bro.
funny.
Yeah, bro,
So
make
funny.
your sandwich.
Wait till life hits you. Now these guys all hit me up. They're like, "Dude, I remember when you were saying that back then, like when we were working at Subway, I didn't know what you were talking about. And like, how do you do it? Like, what do you do?" And I'm like, "Dude, it's not that hard. Like all you have to do is find successful people who have what you want and only listen to those people.
Yeah.
If you do what people do and you say what they say, you'll get what they have every single time." And so I learned to stop taking advice from broke people because if you buy someone's opinion, you buy their lifestyle.
Right.
And that's what my earliest mentors told me. I was like, so in a lot of people in the world, they're going around giving unsolicited advice. People all the fucking time tell you what to do, how to live your life, what to say, what to be, how to do it. And it goes in one ear and out the other ear for me. Because I literally look at them and I'm like, "Bro, I'm not taking your fucking advice. You're a loser." Like, do I want to live like you? No. Then why should I listen to a single thing you say?
Yeah.
But so many people are so easily influenced and swayed. Even people that have good intentions from you, their advice may not be good, right? Because
Right.
like my parents' advice on take this path, do this thing, like I would get their result and live their life, which is cool. It's great for them. They're all happy. They're retired.
It's a safety life.
It's
Right.
a safety life, and that's fine.
And the,
but
like,
that's
normal,
not
proper-
but that's not for me. I didn't want that lifestyle, and so they're trying to, they're doing it out of good intention to give me this advice. They want what's best for me, but they don't know what's actually best for me. So I know what's best for me, and so I took this approach, and like I said, I would compartmentalize my future life while I was working. So I would be like super happy, like all day, every day, in a good mood. And people are like, they're so miserable. They hate their lives. They're coming into, when you're working at Subway, you're washing dishes. I mean, of course you're going to be miserable. But I looked at it like a challenge. I was like, the worse my life gets, the more of an opportunity I have to stack wins and just become more of a warrior and just like develop this crazy disciplined mindset where you can literally go out and do whatever you want to do. And so I did the same thing at the restaurant, washing dishes. They were offering me promotions there, but I just chose the Subway route, and then I was working at Subway. So from here, I would, like I told you guys, I would come home at night, and then I would study. So I would take courses, I would learn, I would study till like 3 o'clock in the morning, I'd sleep for a couple hours, and then I'd get back up and go do it all again. And so the first thing that I got into was like, I'm going to learn trading. Okay. So I was like, I'm going to learn stocks. There was all these ads and gurus that I was getting hit by. And they were like, yeah, you can make money trading. And I was like, great, I can just make money. Like, no one cares about who I am, what my criminal record is, my past looks like. No one cares about any of that stuff. It's me versus me. It's a total mindset game. And trading is, again, based all around discipline. So the paradox of trading, which is interesting, and I love this stuff. I've been trading for 8 years now, 9 years, right. And it's one of my favorite things to do and one of my favorite ways to make money. But what I love about trading is that it's totally you versus you, and it's a 100% discipline game. So it's all mindset, because all that trading is, at the end of the day, is risk management. Okay, that's literally all it is. Because when you're looking at the market, there's really only one of 3 things that it can do. It can either go up, it can go down, or it can range, right? And what I learned about trading was that, number one, you can't predict the future. No matter who you are or how good you think you are of a trader, or how good you are at reading the charts, or marking the patterns or doing the fundamentals.
There is just one person that can. It's Nancy Pelosi.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, she's insider trading. She's insider trading. Lock her up. Lock her up.
She's the best trader of all time.
Yeah, Pelosi's signals and inverse of Jim Cramer, and you'll be solid. Yeah. So that's actually really funny and true. It's corrupt.
But you're right. We cannot predict the future.
Yeah. So you don't have a crystal ball. And so you get these people that think, as traders, they think, I'm going to become so good of a trader and so good at reading these patterns that I'm going to be the best trader. I'll know which way the market's going. Yeah. And you never know. So that means the paradox of trading is that in order to be a consistently profitable trader, you have to consistently lose trades. Because you have to lose trades and win trades. Since you don't know which way it's going to go, what you're doing is you're stacking probabilities and statistics. That's it. If you're a technical trader like I am, because you have technical analysis, which is basically your charting patterns, your candlesticks, or you have the fundamental analysis, which is like the economics and like the value-based investing, which definitely factors in, but I'm a purely technical trader. So I look purely at chart patterns when I do my trade analysis and market structure and price action. And so when I look at a pattern and I can see, okay, the market is more likely to go this way than it is this way, because based off of the pattern. But just because I think the market's going to go up doesn't mean I can leverage my whole account into that. Because if you over leverage and then the greed takes over, well, what happens when it goes south? Well, now you're negative. Now you're losing. And then on the opposite side, you have the fear spectrum. So greed and fear is typically all that trips up traders. And so what you have to be able to do is to be able to manage your risk effectively and just take losses when you need to take losses. And most people aren't comfortable taking losses. If they go into a negative floating position and the fear kicks in, they begin hoping that the market's going to turn around, or they begin holding on, and it's draining that equity in their account. Yeah. And then the market makes a little bounce up, and they're like, yes, it's time. And then, they hold on to their losses for too long, or on the greed side, they don't take their winners, and they hold on to their winners too long because they're hoping on the greed. And so it turns around. So it's a total mindfuck, all trading. And all you need to know to be a successful trader is the risk management side, because you can literally lose more trades than you win and be a profitable trader.
Yeah.
You could win. Your risk reward ratio. Right. If you have a 3-to-1 risk to reward ratio where your winners are 3 times as big as your losers, and you win 40% of your trades, you're going to be a consistently profitable trader. So as long as you manage risk effectively, you could almost like blindfold yourself and throw a dart, like literally just click any direction, buy or sell. But if you manage your risk properly, you can still potentially trade, effectively. So anyways, I went too deep on trading.
No, you're all
But
good.
just to circle back on everything, the reason why I mentioned all of that is because that further embedded the discipline and the mindset.
Yeah.
And it's, you have to become ultra disciplined. There was a point in my life where I stayed up every single night for an entire year straight because the Forex market is what I ultimately ended up getting into as I graduated from equities. And the Forex market is a global market.
Mm-hmm.
So they have a London session, which is one of the primary liquidity sessions in the market, but it starts here at 3 a.m. And so I stayed up every single night for a London session, and I stared at one currency pair,
Oh
euro,
my
dollar,
God.
Okay.
for an entire year straight. And I watched the one pair for an entire year straight. And that's the kind of dedication and insanity that I bring to wanting to be successful, because so many people half-ass things and they
Yeah.
don't take it serious. Like, I go incredibly serious. I'm not fucking around. When I'm like when I say I'm going to do something, like, I'm going to do it. And so back to, where we were before and what I was doing with everything, I didn't learn those lessons right away. So I had the greed kick in on me instantly. So I saved up about 30,000 working at Subway, and I did 1 day of demo trading, paper trading, and then I instantly went to a live account.
Oh wow.
I loaded all of my life savings into a brokerage account
Oh my God.
with TD Ameritrade. I think you know where this is going.
Yeah.
And I leveraged my entire account on one trade.
Oh.
I was
no.
trading gold ETFs. They were triple leverage ETFs. So they move 3 times the speed of gold, which gold as a commodity, it's a very fast moving
It's
trading
fast, yeah.
instrument. Yeah. And a lot of people lose a lot of money on gold. And so what happened was I was buying this ETF and I was working at Subway. And in the stock market, you have a gap every day. So the market closes at 4 p.m. Eastern, reopens the next day at like 9 a.m., 9:30.
Yeah.
And so overnight, news can come out, and then the market can gap, and then you see in the morning. So I was holding all these buy positions, and I was like excited. I'm like, I'm gonna make $100,000 and quit Subway and tell my boss to stick it, because he was like, this guy was terrible boss. We won't get into that, but like he was absolutely horrid, and he treated his employees really, really bad. But I just wanted to leave, and so I was like, I had this false sort of confidence. I was like, oh, it's just, buy low, sell high. It's easy. Like, I'm smarter than everybody else. Like, this is easy. I can do this. And
God.
so the next day I get into work, I go in, I open the store, and then, the breakfast crowd's coming in, the rush is coming in. And so we're making sandwiches, and like, I sneak off into the back just to check my positions, open my phone. And the market gapped down substantially. It was one of the biggest gold crashes in the last like 15 years. From that time, there was like a huge news thing that came out, and like gold gapped way down. So I was like, the market opened, and I was like 40% down. I was like, shit. I was like, it's got to like, rebound, whatever. So I go back to making sandwiches. I'm kind of like panicking a little bit. Go back in the back again, check my phone. Oh my gosh, it's going lower.
Oh, no.
I'm like 60% drawdown. And then same thing, go back, make some more sandwiches, go back in the back, check again. It's going even lower. I'm at like 80% of my, like 20% of my equity left. I was like, damn it, I just need to pull the plug. I don't want to lose everything. So I exit my positions, and then the market instantly rebounds.
Oh, no.
Like literally right after. And so I was literally just straight on the dumb money
my
train,
God.
like the full emotional train, not understanding how markets move, how institutions invest, and like what actually, like I had very little training at this time. And so I lost all that money, and then there was another stock I was following, this company called MGT. The guy, John McAfee, who did like the McAfee antivirus software and all that, big guy. He was like behind the company, even though he was controversial with like his whole thing. I don't know if you guys know his story, but
it's
they think he
crazy.
killed his neighbor in Belize or something. And the guy is off the chain. Like, he's a little crazy. But anyways, I took the rest of my money, invested it into this super high risk startup because it was supposed to like 100x. And then I come into work the next day, and then they announce a bankruptcy filing that day. And so that it goes to zero the next day. So I lost all my money instantly.
My God.
Oh
And I'm
my
just like
God.
pissed. I'm pissed because it took me like a year and a half of saving that money working at Subway. I was pissed, but like at the same time, I was also like, it was super eye opening to me because I was like, damn, I lost $30,000 that fast. You know what would have happened if I was on the right side of those trades? I would have made that money that fast.
Right.
So I didn't look at it like a victim. I never take anything as like, oh, I'm this victim because I lost and, you know, I did this thing and screw this person and like point the finger at everybody else. Like the first
easy
person
thing
that
to do,
the first person I look at is in the mirror and I say, you know, I took the risk. I was the dummy that was like, oh, I'm so smart. I can do this without like,
After one
you know,
trade.
it's like video games. I can just go figure this out. I'm smarter than everybody else.
Yeah.
And I got slapped in the face and like
Yeah.
humbled by the markets. But I was really motivated by it because I was like, okay, like I need to learn how to do this. And so from that point, I started like really dialing in and like learning and like really getting good. And then that's when, you know, I got into more of like the Forex markets. It was actually because I got introduced to another network marketing company at the time was iMarkets Live. I don't know if you guys have heard of that one.
I heard about this.
It's a big Forex trading, education, network marketing company. And actually the guys that were doing the Vima company, the energy drink company, all those guys were making a comeback in this IML company. And same thing, you had all these 20-year-olds, they were making a ton of money trading, they were making a ton of money building the business. I was like, this is what I want to do and get out of these jobs and stuff. And, you know, I was also kind of, you know, a little bit of shiny object syndrome at the time too. I was, you know, learning e-com. I was learning all these different things, kind of jumping around, trying all sorts of stuff. And, you know, I was trading more. I got to about 24 years old at the time. I was also doing real estate. I was doing wholesale in South
Oh, wow,
Carolina. So
okay.
I was flipping properties, doing wholesaling. I was just sort of like gunslinging. Like I was
Yeah.
like, what do I want to do? Like, what I like? I just want to make money in everything. And as an entrepreneur, like I think the biggest crutch that a lot of entrepreneurs have is we want to do everything.
Yeah.
Because everything sounds like an amazing idea to me. I'm like,
At the beginning.
At the beginning, yes.
it's the uninformed optimism. Yes.
Exactly.
And then you get into it and you realize, okay, this is actually harder than it looks.
Yep.
So I would do that. I was on that cycle of like system jumping where I would go do a new business, start it, make a little bit of money. Oh, this is kind of hard. Switch. Like with wholesaling, I, you know, got super inspired, took some courses, and, you know, they had me, I was going around putting out bandit signs. I was sending out postcards. I was cold calling people, and I did a couple of deals, but like, you know, I didn't know at the time, like you could hire like VAs overseas to do like cold calling and like the things that you didn't want to do.
Right.
I was like, I don't like cold calling, and like I'm sending people postcards and they're leaving me voice notes
Takes
saying,
too much time.
saying that I should, you know, kill myself and don't ever put this effing shit on my door again, and you know you're the scum of the earth. And I'm like, I don't really know if I like this business. You know, at the time I wasn't as battle hardened, so like now, like I do wholesaling again now today, and like it's funny. Like, I mean, that's sales. You know, if you're doing any sort of outbound cold marketing and sales and you're casting a wide net to a completely cold audience,
Yeah.
90% of them are telling you to go fuck yourself.
Right.
Opponents are-
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
Like,
you're
who does this guy think he is?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
leave me alone.
But you do hit some people at the right time when they need the message, because like with wholesaling,
Yeah.
what we're doing is we're looking for people that are potentially motivated sellers, and they want to, you know, engage in an off-market transaction to offload their property for fast cash, where they probably aren't in a scenario to list it on the market with a realtor because their house may be distressed, it may be burned down, maybe it was flooded, it's vacant. They could be an absentee owner. It could be a inherited property. All these different levels of motivation, you know, divorce, and so like, or foreclosure. So we'll hit people now, and yeah, like on our cold marketing stuff, like a lot of people, they're not at the right time to receive it, and they have no interest in selling their house, and so they're like, I don't want to sell my effing house. And it's like, cool, you don't have to, but we're not looking for you. We're
Right.
looking for the person that's like, they're 3 months behind on their mortgage. They need help.
Yeah.
Right.
Because we can actually help that person. We
Right.
can reinstate their mortgage. We can take that over. We can get the property off their hands, save them from foreclosure, save their credit, help them relocate. So it does actually work, and it helps. But anyways, just to circle back, we'll get more into that later. But
Sure.
Yeah.
circling back, so I was doing all these businesses, bouncing around, whatever. I was about 24 years old, and I tried to quit Subway, go full-time in entrepreneurship, and I was doing wholesaling. I went broke, went back to working. So at this time, I think, yeah, it was I was working at Lowe's. So I was doing shopping carts, and then I was working at like an Italian restaurant serving. And I was just and I got to a point again where I saved up some money. I quit my jobs again to go full-time in entrepreneurship, and I failed again. So I went back to working jobs a third time. And at this point too, like my parents were kind of like, okay, like, you know, your whole entrepreneurial thing like is cool, but like you should probably just like get a job and like settle down, like get your own apartment. And so at that point they were like basically like kicking me out of the house. And they thought that I'd saved up all this money and I had like a good foundation, but I was doing more trading. I was trading Forex. I'd just blown another $10,000 account right before they kicked me out. So I had like $1,000 in my bank account, but I was like so angry that they were like kicking me out and not giving me the foundation for like my entrepreneur stuff. I didn't even mention it. I didn't say anything. I was like, fine, I'll just go live in my car and be homeless. And I didn't tell them that. I was like, well, I'm moving to Florida because I had friends that were down here in Orlando that I was building the iMarkets Live company with, the network marketing company. So I was like building a team out here, and this kid that I was, I met online, he was like, come stay at my house. Like, come, there's an extra room at my mom's house, whatever, come down. And so I left South Carolina with like $1,000 in my account, in my car, and I just drove to Orlando. Now I was like homeless, sleeping in my car. I would go to Planet Fitness, and I would like go shower and stuff there. And then I was staying at my friend's house, and this was a total dysfunctional house. Like his mom was a lunatic, like crazy alcoholic. She'd come screaming in there at like 2 a.m. She'd, oh, you guys get the fuck out. Like just smashing bottles. And then he'd be screaming at his mom, like fighting his mom. I'm like, yo, I'm about to go.
Like the car is way better.
Yeah. I'm like, I'm about to go. So like I ended up getting a rental with these guys, and they were all like, yeah, we'll be reliable. And then they all immediately moved out. So then it was just me in this house with this rental. And so I had different roommates coming in and out, but it was an interesting time in my life. And I was still building these businesses. Again, I had to go get, a job for the 4th time now. So I tried to quit my jobs to become a full-time entrepreneur now 3 times. And this was my next time failing. So I went back to working. I was doing phone sales on International Drive for timeshare. So I was selling vacation packages, cold calling, everyone telling me to, go kill myself, F you, don't call me.
Some nice motivation for your day.
But,
I can't wait to do this.
It started to, strengthen you up a little bit. You start to get harder skin and realize that they're not actually mad at you. It's just they're mad at their situation and what's going on. And I started to feel bad for people like that. I'm like, man, like these people are so angry that like any chance that they can get to like fly off the handle on a stranger, they want to do it. And since they're like not in front of you, like they're over the phone, they feel like it's like the keyboard warrior thing, right? Because if they were face to face with you, they wouldn't say that. But like so many people are just so like angry in their life and angry. They don't even realize that they're just angry at themselves and the fact that they've settled and the fact that they didn't go out and they're not willing to take chances and learn and live life. And that's one thing that I've always been keen on is like, well, let me just go like fail and like learn. Because I truly believe that you either win or you learn. Like I don't look at failure as a bad thing. I actually look at failure as a really good thing. And it always motivates me. Like the more that stacks up and the more that I lose and the more that I fail, the more inspired I become because I realize that number one, these lessons are going to inspire someone and I can help people. And then I can also now help people avoid some of the things that I've been going through because as an entrepreneur myself, I've just sort of been, shooting from the hip and like learning as I go totally. And so, that's been a big thing. And so from there I did, let's see. So I was working at the timeshare place, got another job at an Italian restaurant serving. And then I finally hit my first big win. So,
all right. Yeah.
In business. And up until now, it's been a lot of losing, getting punched in the mouth.
But that's impressive though, because most people would be like, I'm going to start this business, fail. And then, and then at most people are like, you know what, that's enough. And then maybe if they have a little perseverance, they'll be like, yeah, but the first one always fails. So let me do the second time. Second time around they fail. They're like, you know what, I'm not cut out for this. And like most people stop. So the fact that you went through 3 pretty intense
Yeah,
failures.
yeah.
And then we're like homeless and like through all of this, you were like,
Yeah.
no, I'm gonna do it again. And this time I'm gonna come out on top, and you did.
Yeah. What's funny is like
You
I
were
was
made for this.
I was happy
Yeah.
during the whole time. Like I didn't care. Like I was so happy when I was homeless because I was like, this is so cool. Like I was like,
that sentence itself is insane. Like I was so happy I was homeless.
I was happy because of how terrible and how difficult my life was. I was like, what an amazing opportunity to build strength and discipline and just build
Yeah.
an incredible comeback story.
I mean,
Because
yeah.
those are all the people that I looked up to as entrepreneurs, is the people that crashed and burned, they lost everything. It's always the people that seem to have the hardest, journeys, some of the biggest trials and tribulations. They learn so much from it. And I just feel that each one of these opportunities, I was just always so grateful. And like, it's like, it sounds weird, but I think maybe it was a little bit of the network marketing brainwash effect. Like, because these leaders,
like
they
it's
really,
all gonna be great at the
yeah,
end.
they're like, trust in the process
Yeah.
and have belief. And it's like, my life's terrible, but I trust in it. And like, I just fully, firmly believed in the process. And I believed that I was gaining the skills that I needed to. And I believed that my break would come, at
Yeah.
a certain point. And so
Yeah,
this
so
is
what was
where,
it?
this is where the first thing went good. It started to go good, but trust me, there's more.
more.
But wait, there's more. So I was doing the iMarkets Live company, and I was one of the top recruiters on my team. I recruited almost 200 plus people individually, but I wasn't getting that traction. I wasn't rank advancing. If you guys are familiar with how network marketing trees and organizations stack, I was in what's called an inside leg. So I wasn't on someone's like power team where you get a lot of spillover. And so like I was off in an island, like building my own team, and everyone else is building off momentum over here because of where I was in the tree. And so I was capped at like this 1,000 a month or 2,000 a month income level. And then I got introduced to a new opportunity in the trading space, which was these automated like trading bots. They're called expert advisors, and in the Forex space, and they started to become really popular. And there was this other company called Silver Star Live that emerged, and like I found out about it because one of the top guys that was in the drink company, the Vima company, this guy Derek Alexander, he was one of the kids that like he was one of the top 20 earners in the company at the time as a kid. And I saw he was launching this new business, and I reached out and got connected, and they showed me these trading bots, because the products of iMarkets Live was trading education. But the flaw there is that 97% of people fail in trading because they give up. They can't manage you're watching your whole life. You're used to your money, just addition and subtraction, and like you work and then it adds in your bank account. But like watching your money on a screen and it fluctuating up and down does something to a lot of people emotionally, where they just like lose their minds and they can't handle it. I mean, it takes a lot of mental strength and discipline to be a trader. And then on top of that, you have network marketing, which is the same deal. 97% of people fail in network marketing because it's sales and marketing.
Yep.
Most people don't like selling. And what they teach you in network marketing is go make a list of all your friends and family and go pitch them first.
Yeah.
And then everyone shits on you.
Yep.
They're like, dude, get away from me with your pyramid scam.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to fucking hear anything. And like, people will literally oust you over it. Like, I had people that literally got so mad that I brought them an opportunity. They're like, I'm not your friend anymore because you're trying to scam me on this pyramid scheme, and you're just a scammer now. And like, I was like, what are you talking about? I was like, this is a business opportunity. Like, but they didn't want to hear it. Right? They didn't want to. It's just the way that they thought. And where was I going with that? I was a little off track. What was I just talking about?
Win.
The big
The
one.
big
Yeah,
one.
yeah. Okay. Yeah. Sorry. So I'm trying to remember all this stuff.
It's fine.
Yeah. So this company, Silver Star Live, I ended up launching this company because it was trading bots. So I saw a solution where people didn't need to know how to trade now. The robot could do it for you.
Okay.
And so you could just load, $500 into a brokerage account, hook up the bot, and then the bot will make you, 10, 20, 30% a month or whatever. And we were shooting for way risky returns at the time because I didn't understand risk management back then. So like we were trying to double our accounts every month. And so anyways, we got in with this software, and this guy, like, they positioned him as like this genius guy. and he turned out being kind of like a fraud, sort of like liar about the whole thing. And like he told everyone like, yeah, it's gonna double your account every month, and you're going to only have 1% drawdown, like very little risk. And so like we started bringing in tons of people, and I built an organization of almost 4,000 people in 6 weeks. Because all the people that were losing in the other company were coming over in droves, and everyone saw it as an opportunity to like, hey, you can't win at trading, but you can win with the bot. You don't need to know shit, and people are naturally lazy, right? So it's like, oh, cool, like AI, like robots trade for me. I can sit on the couch and watch Netflix and make money. So it started popping off like crazy, and so I instantly, within like 6 weeks, I was at a $25,000 a month residual income level.
Wow, amazing.
And I was just about to hit a $50,000 a month residual income level, and then like right as I was about to, like this all happened over like 2.5, 3 months, and I was like, I finally made it. Like I'm about to go be the 100K a month, 200K, like I'm about to win. And then the company came out, and they're like, oh, we're closing the company. Like the owners are fighting and butting heads. They're gonna like rip it to pieces. And one owner is going this way and starting a new company. The other owner is going this way and starting a new company. So I was like, shit, like, damn, like we were literally on that run up, and I just lost it. And so I lost all my money because I immediately started going out and spending like I was going to keep making that. So I like went to like the Gucci store and the Louis store. Like I started buying the stuff, looking the part, like buying the watches and the shoe, like right away. Mm-hmm. And then lost my income, went to zero again, and my bank account's overdrafting again. And there's like 6 weeks before we all go and launch this next company. So we launched the new company, and it's the same thing. It's the robot trading and network marketing. And I built a big team again. And, within 2 months, I'd restored my income of like $25K a month. And, again, I was like, things are good. I moved to Miami at the time. I was like, going to live the Miami lifestyle, and like we were talking about it a little earlier. And so like I was like in the scene, and I was like, it lasted for about a good year, but then unfortunately they closed that company again. Oh my God. So same deal. The new owners that came together, they were butting heads and they were fighting, so they ripped the company to pieces, and they again split in 2 different directions. And so I, lost my whole team, lost my whole income, and then again went out and then rebuilt a team a third time and rebuilt my income again to the $25,000 a month residual level. So now I've actually started to like make some decent money. I'm making like multiple 6 figures. I'm doing pretty well, but like I'm going through this roller coaster ride. And I'm like, man, like, how do I get off this roller coaster ride? I was like, this is freaking terrible. Yeah. Like, my whole life has been this. I'm like, dude, I'm looking for some stability. I'm like,
finally there should be some.
Why can't I just hit it? And like, and I'm watching people like, in other industries and stuff, and other companies where they hit it, it lasts. Like, it does. They don't go through this. And I'm like, again, be grateful. Like, more challenges, whatever. Like, it's part of the process. And so now I got into this this time period where I was like, well, maybe I should, build something that's my own, that I have control over. And my old friend, who when I moved down to Florida, I stayed at him and his mom's house. He came to me with this brilliant idea of this new like e-commerce automation stuff. And this was really big at that time. Mm-hmm. This guy like Tommy Rodriguez and Vince, they were doing these big e-com automation deals where like it was like a high ticket sale. Yep. It was like a $25K, $35K sale, whatever. And it would be these e-com stores that were run by like virtual assistants, and then you would profit share with the client. So it's a win-win. Mm-hmm. And so he was like, yeah, come, be the marketing officer for this business. I'll run all the back end. Like, you won't have to worry about anything. And so I was like, cool, let's do it. And so we started doing it, and it started to grow. And for the first year, we did okay. We had to make some variations and some adjustments because Amazon changed their policies. Yeah. Everyone was doing drop shipping at the time, which was taking off like crazy. Yeah, and then Amazon started suspending and cutting all those stores. So we made the switch to FBA. I moved back to Orlando at this time because we started building warehouses here. Okay. So we were scaling up an operation, and we were working with the virtual assistant team in the Philippines, and we started to scale it pretty rapidly, up to like an 8-figure company level.
And so this is the one that you hit that that 8-figure?
Well,
mark?
yeah, it is.
Okay,
Yeah. So
okay.
I hit it on the automation businesses. Yep. And
Nice.
so we started to scale this business, right? And there's more as she's coming. So we found like this VA guy on Upwork. My partner found him, and he asked him like, "Hey, why don't you quit? You know what you're doing on Upwork? Come build with us. Help us build a team out here. We want to build this big operation. This is the vision, etc." And he was in. And so we started growing. We grew to like 300 clients that we were doing this FBA automation service for, and we grew.
You sell them
we sell them the high ticket store for like 30, 35K, sometimes 50K.
And the store could be any, just to like kind of explain like what it could a store be like, okay, we have like a clothing store that does like t-shirts that's like an e-commerce
yeah,
type
so it's a
thing.
good question. They're all Amazon storefronts at the time. And
Okay.
so we were doing general wholesale. So we would just go find any distributor that we could buy their products in bulk, and then we could resell for retail on Amazon.
Okay.
So
got
the
it.
FBA model is fulfilled by Amazon.
Right.
So Amazon will do all of the storage, the distribution,
Customer
the
service.
The
shipping.
shipping and all
Exactly.
that stuff. Yeah. All the
So-
logistics.
Yep. So
they'll
what
handle
we
it.
would do is we would order pallets from distributors, and then they would ship us in bulk. Let's say they send us 1,000 items. We would break it all down. We would count the stock, make sure it's all there. We'd make sure it's not damaged, and then we repackage the stock individually to go to Amazon because we're getting it ready for retail sales,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
And someone that's going to buy on Amazon, they're not going to buy 1,000 of your
No.
thing. They're going to buy one or two,
Right.
right? So it has to be repackaged to Amazon standards. So we had a packing facility basically here in Orlando. We scaled up to like 12,000 square feet of warehouse space.
Wow.
We had a bunch of warehouse workers here.
That's
We have
significant.
FedEx, UPS. I was like
Every
26
day?
years. Yeah, I was
Wow.
26 years old at this time, and so like I thought like I'm the shit. Like I'm making 25 grand a month in network marketing. Like I'm trading. I'm investing in crypto. I'm running this business. We're doing all these high ticket sales. Granted, we weren't really paying ourselves from the business. We were just kind of scaling it up. Like, you know, we were like, okay, let's just keep reinvesting. And I was like, cool, you know,
Yeah.
whatever. Like, you know, we took very small salaries, and so we started scaling it up. And then we ran into our first issues with that business, which was we scaled to about 300 clients, and we had about 300 VAs in the Philippines.
Wow.
So we had an organization now of hundreds of employees.
Yeah.
Mind you, I'm 26 years old,
That's
and, like,
insane.
never done this before, and this is growing really fast.
Yeah.
Not necessarily the good thing. Like
Yeah.
sometimes growth isn't what's best for your business, and that's one of the things that I've learned, and one of the biggest takeaways that I've learned from all of this is sometimes scale is to your detriment. If you look at the Inc. 5000, the fastest growing companies, they fail at about 3 times the rate of most other companies. So most of the Inc. 5000 companies, we grew at this rate. If you look at them in 5-10 years, I think it's something like 90% of them go out of business.
Yeah.
Because scale and
Too
growth
fast.
isn't necessarily the answer. And so like we didn't know what we were doing. We were making lots of mistakes. I was just the marketing guy. So that's all I did. That's where I went in ClickFunnels, Russell Brunson, making funnels, building
Got it.
high ticket sales teams. I've always been a sales and marketing guy. That's always been my thing. I love to sell. I love marketing. And my partner was running all the operations. And so with that VA guy that he hired, we were looking at him as kind of like our third partner. And so what my business partner was doing was wiring him all the money for payroll every 2 weeks to pay out all the VAs over there.
Yeah.
And so we gave this guy way too much control because we were sending all the money to him, and then we didn't have any control over all of our employees out there.
Right.
And we were like developing land out there. We had constructed an office from scratch.
Oh, wow.
We built an internet tower. We bought buses for transportation for our staff. Like,
full
we were going
infrastructure.
nuts.
Wow.
And this is during like COVID. We were trying to get out there, but we couldn't fly to the Philippines, and so we're sending him all this money, and like things just aren't adding up. Like we're like not getting the output that we believe we should be getting for the amount of employees we're paying for, and things aren't just adding up. And then one day, randomly, one of the VAs is contacting us kind of like as a whistleblower, and he's like, hey, this guy who's running all this, he's stealing from you guys like significantly.
Oh,
And he told us
shit.
everything that he was doing. Turns out what he was doing was we were sending him all this cash, and then all the employees, these 300 employees, he was billing us at $3 an hour for all these employees. He was paying them $1 an hour.
Oh my
So
God.
we thought we're paying these people really good. Like, we were really proud of the fact that we were employing people in the Philippines. And like, I've been to the Philippines. I went out there I had big network marketing teams in Asia. So like,
Okay.
I've been to Philippines. I've spoken on stage in front of 5,000 people in like Asia and all this stuff. And so like, I know how people live out there, and there's a lot of poverty in Philippines. And like, we were proud of the fact that we were paying them really good American wages,
Yeah.
and they were making really good money, or so we thought.
Right.
This guy was basically enslaving all of his own people,
Oh my
and
God.
he was giving them peanuts. So they're all getting paid $1 an hour. And then we also found out that he was faking invoices to us, and he was like falsely marking up all the stuff that we were paying for. So like, when we would buy equipment and computers, it would cost this. He would mark it up here.
Oh my
So he would take all
God.
this money, and then he would buy all the equipment. And then we found out he was also taking clients behind our back. So he was working non-exclusively with us when it was supposed to be exclusive. He was taking other clients behind our back. Not only that, he was servicing them on our labor and our payroll. So the people that we're paying, they're running other people's businesses.
Oh my God.
He told us that the internet tower we were building was going to be strictly to provide internet for our office. He started an internet company and was supplying the entire island where he lived. We bought a big bus to transport people, because he said people don't have cars and they need transportation, and this is going to be free transportation for the workers. Turns out, if the workers used the bus, they were getting charged, but the bus was just running a regular rental company, and he was just using it to run a cash business on the island. And
Oh
then
my
he started all these restaurant chains, and he started like all these iPhone repair shops. And so he was just taking as much cash as he could possibly get from us.
You were
He-
like his bank at that point.
Yeah, he was even using half of our computers there were mining cryptocurrency. They weren't even being used on our organization. And so like, this guy was like, I mean, he was like totally getting us. And so we found this out. We were trying to get to the Philippines. We couldn't even fly there, because we were just going to pull up on him and show up out there
Right.
and set shit straight. But we couldn't get there because all travel was blocked by COVID. And so we approached him and we're like, hey, dude, like, you're doing this, and we know you're doing it, and like, we want, like, what's done is done, but you're gonna stop. Like, we need to run this the right way. You're not gonna do this to us anymore. We need more accountability. We need to start getting control and visibility over all these things. And like, once we can fly out there, we're gonna come out there. Like, we'll put this behind it. We're gonna do this right, because we've already built all this, and we didn't want to just scrap it. And he's like, he basically just turned to extorting us at that point. He goes, you either pay me what I tell you need to pay me, otherwise I'm sending all these people home. And he's like basically saying, yeah, I'm going to keep robbing you and you pay me, otherwise your shit's done. And so obviously we didn't continue paying him. We tried contacting like Interpol at this time, and we were working with law firms in the Philippines to go after him. He ended up going on the run. So he took off and he went on the run, and like, he disappeared for a couple of years. He's resurfaced now. He's trying to, I've seen him trying to work with other automation companies, but you know, he totally got us. And so we lost that whole organization. And so overnight, all of our clients, we had to come back to all of our high ticket clients and say, hey, like, we have to rebuild, right? And your store is going to be on pause for a couple months. These are all people that paid $10, $20, $30, $40, $50,000.
And
You
they
can
probably
imagine
weren't
they're
very
not happy.
happy.
They're not happy.
Yeah.
And they thought that it was a lie. They just thought that, oh,
Yeah,
this
of
is a big
course.
scam that you guys ran on us, and screw you. We're going to start suing you. We're going to start losing our minds on you. So every day I'm just getting blasted by people. And it was just a really bad situation. And we're just going through this paranoia. And my partner at the time goes, all right, well, I'm going down to Colombia. I'm going to Medellin. We're going to start building a brand new office of VAs in Colombia. And I'm going to be on site, and I'm going to be in everybody's fucking, like, I'm going to be there. No one's doing this to us again.
Mm-hmm.
And he went crazy. He went on like some Tony Montana Scarface shit at the end of the movie. Like, he was crazy. I would do a call and he'd be on the phone in Colombia and he'd be like shaking, and he went off, and like, he's never come back from Colombia since then. And
Is he still your partner now?
No. We broke
Yeah.
there. He was a very dictator driven partner. which didn't work good for my style. I'm very
Yeah.
collaborative.
Right.
He was a total my way or the highway, and everybody else is wrong. And he also would treat our employees really, really bad. He'd say some crazy stuff to our employees, really talk down on them, stuff that I didn't agree with.
Yeah.
And, we'd been butting heads for the whole time. I really was miserable at the time running this business and this partnership. And so, I was looking for solutions as well. And I kind of wanted to get out of the business at the time, to be honest with you. But he kind of golden handcuffed me. He said, well, either we split the business and we go our separate ways and you take half of the business, I take half of it, or you stick with me. But if you try to leave, I'm going to tell all the clients that you're the one that scammed everybody, and I'm going to pin the whole thing on you.
Oh
and I'm
my
just going to
God.
trash you. So he kind of like golden handcuffed me. And, I should have just stood up. I should have just stood up to him at the time and said, no, like, I'm out no matter what. I don't care if you do that. Because it would have brought me a lot more peace of mind, and I wouldn't have gone into the next set of issues I was about to encounter. But
There's more
Yo,
issues?
it gets way worse.
Oh
It gets
my
way
God.
worse.
I thought that was the worst of it.
No. It gets
I was
way
like, that's
worse.
pretty bad already.
It gets terrible. It gets honestly terrible. And so like, so I found other partners that were running this type of business model, and we were initially all going to partner together, but then he didn't want to partner with them. So I went off and partnered with some new partners. They ended up being worse than him.
Oh.
They were older people. This is where I thought that, and this is kind of where I've messed up a lot in my career. And one of the biggest takeaways that I think a lot of people should take away from this is that a lot of people, don't assume that people have good intentions. A lot of people do approach business in a very like bad way, where they want to take from you, they want to leverage you, utilize you. And, so I realized later on that the people that partnered with me on the new thing, they kind of looked at me as like this cash cow, and they were trying to ride my coattails. They basically misrepresented to me their success in business. And these were older people in their 40s and their 50s. And I'm like, okay, cool. Like if I partner with older people, like, cause my partner was in his mid 20s too. We were both in our 20s.
Yeah.
I felt like I had this crutch of like,
Yeah.
I need to work with someone more experienced, someone who's been in business for like 20, 30 years. One of the guys was like, yeah, I've been working with this billionaire for the last 15 years. I helped, I'm the president of one of his companies. We sold for $900 million to Polaris. It was a pontoon, boat manufacturing facility. And like, he totally like stretched his resume. He didn't have much of a piece in all of that as he made it seem. And like, so I got in with these new partners and we started to rebuild. We branched out. We continued building the e-com automation. At this point, we were venturing into other industries too, which was another big mistake. So we were doing like trucking automation, YouTube automation, solar. Like we tried to build like this big structure of all these big companies and just became way too ambitious and doing way too much at once. And we ran that for a period of time. And like, long story short, just so that we can learn on the lessons from it and the reflections. But like that business scaled up. So we grew again. We grew to another couple hundred employees. And then that business just ended up crashing and burning, going under, going bankrupt, losing everything.
Oh my
So, having to, lay off hundreds of employees. We had warehouses in Tampa, offices in Orlando. I had like 60 US based employees. We were working with like different trucking companies. We had hundreds of VAs again. So like this all came crashing. People at this point were definitely filing lawsuits. So I got into, a handful of lawsuits from clients, from vendors, from not suppliers, but from like banks with our merchant accounts, because everyone was back charging our merchant accounts. And so what I've learned with this done for you automation space, because if you look around at it now, the same fate is happening with all these other businesses.
Mm-hmm.
So many of these businesses are going under, or they're getting sued by the FTC, they're getting sued by the federal government, and like a lot of these businesses are crumbling and collapsing because the business model is ultimately flawed. And this is something that I didn't know in the beginning and didn't see in the beginning because I didn't have the experience. I was a kid in my 20s and I was like, cool, it sounds good. It's a win-win for everybody. But the problem is, as you scale these organizations, you sell this high-ticket service, you bring on a customer, and then you have to staff people pretty much for every customer you sell.
Yep.
So you start building like this big bloated organization that has ultra complex operations. And the problem also too is we were bringing on a lot of customers we shouldn't have, to be honest, because we were taking on anyone who wanted to pay for our service.
Yeah.
And so we were bringing on people that didn't have the right mindset for it. They weren't looking at it as, hey, I should use risk capital for this business venture. They were only intending that it would succeed. They were looking at it as like their golden ticket of like, I'm going to do this thing and like this company's going to set me free. People had unrealistic expectations about how much money it would make them. And so like it created this giant like beast of a thing that was just growing and reaching like an impending like doom. And so
And how were you looking for those clients?
we were doing all marketing. So we were doing like the same high ticket funnels. We had a lot of affiliates
So
because
ads, affiliates.
ads
Okay.
and affiliates. So and we were growing really rapidly, and like and then as you scale, so you have all hundreds of employees. We got to a point where I think our largest month, our payroll was like 800,000 for the month.
Wow.
Wow.
So you imagine having such a big organization like that. As you grow, your margin
Of course.
becomes almost non-existent because you're creating this huge bloat versus the proper structure to run, and kind of what I learned and what we were trying to do, because we were doing all these like weird, like it's like a consulting service, like a done for you operations management. And then I started to learn really the thing you should do is just go start a fund and go run a fund and go raise money like for what you're doing from accredited investors and from family offices and private institutions where you can run a business with a small team and you get capital supplied. The way we were looking at it was like we were trying to help 9-to-5ers and like be the company that like unfortunately gives someone the fish. And this is the biggest thing I learned too is like don't ever give someone a fish versus teach them how to fish.
Right.
Because when you give them the fish, you truly handicap people.
Yep.
And I thought we were helping people, but we're handicapping them.
Yep.
And we're reinforcing in their mind that you're not going to have control over your own life and you have to live off of the fruits of someone else's labor. And then you train someone to have a really bad mindset with that because you give
Yep.
them the fish. It's cool today. You give them the fish tomorrow, give them the fish again. They go, hey, this fish is a little smaller than the fish was yesterday. What's up with that? And it's
Yeah.
like they become this like, where's my fish? Where like
Right.
instead what
Yeah.
you should really be teaching people is skill sets and education. And so I don't ever want to do anything ever again where it's like a done for you, we do it all for you.
Yeah.
I would never do any business like that ever again. All I want to do is just I would only do education,
Yep.
coaching. Right now I'm doing all coaching for free. And
Wow.
I'm just doing a ton of coaching. I'm going to be building a free community soon where I'm just going to give people free advice on business and just help people, just give as much value as I can out. Because I truly believe that like the best way to help others is to give them the tools and the knowledge to succeed themselves. Because that's how I was able to ultimately succeed. And so to carry on with this and wrap this all up, and then the things that I work on today.
Yeah.
So that all crumbled, collapsed, and I lost north of $1 million on the business. So like,
Whoa. Did you like go into debt with
oh
that?
yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And I kind of skipped over it too. During this point, I also launched a cryptocurrency token called Nobility Token with another buddy. So I was all over the place.
He's like, of course you did.
I did the same.
Yeah. So we launched an esports gaming token, and I made like $1.5 million on it.
Wow.
Okay,
At
that's
the
good.
peak, I didn't take all my gains properly, and I lost a lot of it too. But like, that was a big come up for me as well. And so like, I made most of my money in affiliate marketing, crypto trading, and so I had taken in the last year of this business, I took all of my money, like $1 million, and I put it into the business because I didn't want it to fail. And I wanted to like put everything I had into it. And so I got into this state of mind where I was so miserable, so depressed, and I was working 100 hours a week. All of our customers were getting angry and upset, and I was giving it everything, my all. And I was totally drained, gassed, like burnt out to the max. And then the whole thing crashed and burned, blew up in my face. I lost all my money. Lost $1 million. Everyone was pissed off. All of our customers. I had employees were like, spiting me on the way out, talking crap, and like, it was just it was a lot. And so
Yeah.
like for me, that was the first time in my life where it was so overwhelming mentally that like I got in a really dark place. And like it was the first time like ever I contemplated like, should I kill myself? Like, and this I think
Wow.
mental health and entrepreneurship is a big discussion that needs to be had, because it is. I mean, it's a total roller coaster. And
Yeah.
so like I genuinely I genuinely like was very close to like, should I just off myself? And like, I had severe depression, anxiety. I couldn't sleep at night. I had a ton of weight gain. I had like eating disorders. Basically, I was just stuffing my face with snacks and like anything to make me feel any sort of pleasure. Also, people were threatening me, harassing me. They were harassing my family. People had harassed our employee. Like it was just a big bad thing. And so what I started doing at that time was I started meeting with all of our clients individually, and every single week I just sit down with more and more clients, talk through, what happened. And I've been working with a lot of our clients individually, helping them out. I'm helping a ton of people recoup and make their money back from what they had lost on those services. And then I got into a bunch of lawsuits. That was all really stressful. But again, like this whole experience has taught me to, again, like be the strong entrepreneur. And like I've learned so much from like all these lessons and all the bad business partners I've had and where we went wrong in all these businesses and what we should have done the right way. Because like when you look back at things, right, hindsight's always 20/20. So you always say, oh, the woulda, coulda, shoulda.
Yep.
But you can't live in the past and you can't torture yourself. And so I look at it as, okay, I need to move on. I need to move forward. And so like that's been the biggest thing that has been the biggest, hardest thing on my journey. That was about 1.5 years ago that we closed that business down.
Wow.
And then from there.
So like when we met you almost.
Yeah.
I think,
It was
yeah.
right
at
around that time, honestly.
Yeah, because I remember when we met, you had the Amazon store automation.
Yeah, you were talking
and
about
the truck automation.
Yeah.
So that was probably right before we had closed down.
Wow.
We were really close to succeeding. We had figured out some solutions. One of the biggest issues we had at the time was in trucking, because when we got into it, the freight market like collapsed. And so you were making like a quarter of what you would have made before. And we built the model off of what it was making, not anticipating what it would go down to. And then we had found some really lucrative freight, which was hazmat freight. And so we were trying to pivot into transporting like all this, oil and hazmat. And we had some good connections there, but it was too little too late. So that whole thing ended up collapsing and failing. And, it's been a relief in a way, in a sense where I was so miserable building that business the whole time anyways. I hated my life for the entire 4 years of running it, but I've learned so much along the way, and it's given me all the tools to succeed today. And so now what I work on, I'm really fulfilled in, and I'm really excited with what I'm doing. The two things that I do today, I do payment processing and I do real estate.
Right.
So those are the two primary things. And I also still trade, invest. I also do consulting, stuff like that. And I do work with some businesses there.
Okay.
But what I love about the two industries I picked today, the biggest things that I've picked in pursuing payment processing and real estate is that these are sort of longer term, low risk, stable things. So I've had enough of the roller coaster in my life. And I said, look, man, I don't want to go build something huge again.
Yeah.
Have it all blow up, collapse, crumble, blow up in my face. Because it was the most insanely painful experience of my life.
Yeah.
And I still deal with it daily today. Like I'm still recovering. It's going to take several years to recover from it. And I'm working with tons of people, helping them out. And there's a lot of silver lining in it. I've started to build really good relationships with a lot of our customers that I'd never met previously. So it's actually turning out really good. And we have some really good things that I'm working with these people. But anyways, so I reflected on that experience and I was like, okay, whatever I do, I want to make sure that what I'm doing is going to be something that I can build upon for years to come. And it's not something that's just going to collapse and crumble like overnight.
Mm-hmm.
And so payment processing, I got introduced to that industry about 2.5 years ago. My buddy came to me because I was having a lot of issue with my merchant accounts at the time, processing high ticket, using like Stripe and Square and all these things.
PayPal.
Yeah.
Everyone knows if you've processed with those.
Yes.
And so I was having all these issues. Accounts getting frozen, shut down. QuickBooks actually was the worst one. We were invoicing and sending payments through QuickBooks. And there was one point in time where QuickBooks held $300,000 from us, And they basically said, hey, we're shutting down your merchant account. We don't really know what you're doing. We're going to hold on to your money, period. Like, not like we're going to hold it for 6 months in case of chargebacks and give it back to you. We're keeping your money. We're robbing you. And it took us 13 months of fighting QuickBooks to get our money released, which you can imagine how hard that is.
Of course.
What am I going to do? Sue Intuit, QuickBooks? Like, it's
Yeah.
$1 billion company.
Right.
And they are holding your money. So there's your resources to come after them.
Right.
And so we fought them for 13 months, finally got it released. I got introduced to a guy that's been in the payment space for 20 years.
Okay.
And he was breaking it down to me on why we were running into those issues. I ended up switching over all my merchant accounts with him, and then I never had any issues moving forward, and I was paying substantially less in fees. And so I was like, okay, well, you definitely know what you're doing. Tell me more about this and how it all works. And, so he told us more about how he's been in the payment space for 20 years and how he's built up a portfolio of 10,000 businesses that process payments through him. And when he brings a business over and they switch from Stripe or PayPal or whoever to using him, he gets paid a small portion of every transaction.
That's awesome.
So he gets a royalty on all of these businesses' revenue.
Yeah.
Instantly in my mind, I'm sure you guys are probably fans of the show Shark Tank.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mr. Wonderful and his royalty deals.
Yep.
He's like, I'll loan you this money, you pay me back, I get this amount in perpetuity or whatever it is. He loves to get a small royalty on a business where he's a total hands-off, silent guy. And that's what I saw immediately in my head, like cha-ching, like it literally went off like that. And I was like, damn, you literally can get a royalty on all of these businesses' revenue, whether you're making 0.25%, 0.5%, 1%, whatever it is. That's incredible. Because if you go build up a big portfolio, you're getting paid on all these businesses. And I'm not the business owner. I'm not taking the risk. I'm not doing the thing. I'm like totally hands off. I just get paid.
Yeah.
And so he said, I built up a portfolio of 10,000 businesses I get paid on. Guy makes millions and millions and millions of dollars a year doing this, which, by the way, he was like the third person I've met that has been in the payment space for more than a decade. The other people that I'd met, they both extremely wealthy. I was like, every time I meet someone that tells me they're in the payment space and they've been in it for more than a decade, they live in huge ass mansions on golf courses, they have yachts, they have Rolls, like they have all the cars, like everything. I was like connecting the dots. I was like, but those other people didn't really break it down to me like this guy did. And he showed us the real opportunity. And he said, what's even cooler about this is all the businesses we bring in, he goes, we have a 99% retention rate. They don't leave.
Right.
If they're saving money and they're having a good experience,
Why
there's
would they
no
go
point to
anywhere
leave.
else? Yeah.
It's not something you just want to disrupt and change out because it's how you're accepting payments. It's your cash flow. So he goes, I have businesses I brought in 20 years ago that I'm getting paid on today. And I was like, damn. I was like, so we get paid royalties. We can just build like a portfolio and stack it up. And, I've always been in search of like that residual, like that passive. Like when I got introduced to network marketing, the pitch was you build this big team, you do it one time, you get paid on it forever. Wasn't my reality.
Right.
Once you get into a lot of things, you realize they're not as passive as they're pitched.
Right.
So in network marketing, because I built successful teams, thousands of people, but then you don't realize you have churn every month. Yep. So you have all these people canceling their subscription.
Yep.
And then you have the competitor companies, and everyone wants to jump to this company.
Yep.
And then you have, if I stop working and I stop showing them that I'm hustle, grind, they all stop working too. So it's not passive because if I stop, they stop, my income starts decreasing. But with this, I saw an opportunity where if I build it, I can continue to build it over time and it will continue to compound and grow.
Yeah.
And so me and my buddy at the time, he was same guy, big affiliate leader. He's built teams of more than 40,000 people in network marketing. And I built teams of more than 5,000 people. We're like, hey, can we go get thousands of people to do this with us and go sell it? And he's like, well, yes, you can. Also, you can't because I don't really have the systems to support that. I don't have the scalability. He goes, I'm old school. I've been doing this all word of mouth the last 20 years. I have like 10 people that kick me over businesses. So we said, hey, if we build the platform, can we partner with you and utilize your connection and the 10 banks that you use that actually issue these merchant accounts to the business? Can we use you to run the back end and we'll go build all the scalable front end systems? And he said, yeah. And so what we've been doing over the last 2.5 years is building this out. And so I've been building this platform for affiliates for payment processing We haven't released it yet. This is the first time I talked about it on any sort of public forum.
Breaking news.
Yeah,
Yeah,
breaking news
breaking
alert.
news.
We have a new,
So-
business here.
Yeah, so we've been in pre-launch for the last couple months. We've started to bring on a couple dozen affiliates, and we're on the last phase of our build-out for the development, and then we'll be releasing this platform. And it's a multi-tiered affiliate comp structure where you can go out and build a payment processing network, and you can refer in businesses. And we've created an academy teaching you on payment processing, what you need to know as far as merchant processing goes. We have all coded funnel pages, landing pages. We built custom CRM from scratch.
Oh, nice.
We're also building in like Google pay-per-click advertising, so you can buy leads from us, pay per lead. You can also do outbound SMS, text blast campaigns. So you can go out and you can build a portfolio of businesses, and we're teaching you how to do this. And then you can also build a team of affiliates that can go out and bring in businesses, and you can override their referrals. So if you can build a small team of 30 affiliates and each one of them brings 10 businesses a year, you're now getting 300 businesses coming to you that you're getting royalties off of. Yeah. So that's and it's extremely lucrative in the payment processing space. You can make a lot of money doing this. Just for some round numbers, like if you built a small book of like a portfolio doing about 10 million a year in transaction volume, so that could be one company that does 10 million a year.
Right.
2 companies that do 5 million a year, 5 companies that do 2 million a year, whatever it is, that's going to pay you about $30,000 a year residually.
Wow.
And then if you do the math on that, go bigger, like 100 million, okay, you're making about $250,000, $300,000 a year.
Yep.
And then if you go another times to $1 billion a year in payment processing volume, we call it the road to $1 billion, which, hey, it might take you 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. That's going to pay you about $2.5 to $3 million a year. All completely passive.
Yeah.
And so what I tell people is this is another tool you can have in your tool belt, because anytime you're engaging in conversation with a business owner, just who do you use for processing? You use Stripe. Oh, what do you like most about them? Or would you recommend them? I hate them. They're always holding them out.
Yep.
Hey, I might have a better solution that could save you a bunch of money.
Yeah.
Can I connect you?
But my question is like, I've been approached by people for that, and my question is always like, well, yeah, but when you have like ClickFunnels or GHL, like how do you like integrate?
It's a great question. Yeah, great question. So the way that you integrate a payment processor is through what's called a gateway.
Okay.
And so the ClickFunnels, Go High Level, they use a lot of the popular payment gateways like NMI or Authorize.net.
Yep.
So what we do is we get a merchant API key. So we underwrite your account, we approve you, and then we have an integrations team that will do this for you. But they literally just copy and paste the API key, and they paste it into the NMI gateway in Go High Level or ClickFunnels.
Okay.
And it switches like that. So it's an instantaneous switch. It's really easy to do. And also what's cool about all of this is that we have our own in-house sales team. So for our affiliates, they don't have to go be the expert on this. They don't have to be the salesperson. They can just refer them to us in our calendar. We'll take the appointments. We'll send them through. We'll get them approved. And then our integrations team will get them all set up and rolling. So I'm really excited to release that business.
That's awesome.
I'm not going to tell you guys the name of it yet because we've been working really hard on this, but that's going to be coming in the next like 2 to 3 months.
Cool.
That's so
And,
cool.
So 2025.
Yeah. We'll be launching basically first quarter there. And then the other business that I've been doing is in real estate. So I jumped back into wholesaling real estate to get back into flipping properties and doing deals. But what I'm really looking to build in real estate is going to be a portfolio.
Okay.
So I'm looking to build up a rental property portfolio. I also do intend to get into new builds, new construction, ground up development, but ultimately, again, sort of looking at, my past experiences and wanting to build something long term. A lot of my friends that have been on this entrepreneurship journey with me over the last 10 years or so, I was the total shiny object dude and jump around to a million things. I have buddies that they picked real estate and they just stuck with real estate.
Yeah.
And I've watched them go from like 1 or 2 rentals their first year, 3 to 4 the next year, a dozen the next year, 30 to 40 the next year, 100 the next year, now like 20, 30, 40 rentals a month they're buying now. Some of my friends, and I've watched them scale portfolios to hundreds of doors or thousands of doors, and I've watched their net worth explode out of control because the true like value, the biggest value you get, compound value in holding real estate isn't just from your cash flow. It's from your appreciation on the properties.
The time.
It's from the tax benefits, your depreciation. So there's really like 5 primary benefits with rental properties. Number one, your cash flow. Number two, the appreciation. So it's going up in value over time. The depreciation, your tax benefits. And then you have every single month, your tenants are paying down your financing. So you're getting equity growth. And then in the future, you have the ability to leverage that equity. So you can pull that out, go use it for down payments on other properties, stuff like that. So I got really involved with wholesaling as creating a deal pipeline for myself. And I've gone deep into learning creative financing strategies for real estate. So there are lots of strategies. One of the big guys out there that I learned from, and he's one of my mentors in the space, is Pace Morby. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of him.
No.
He's like the creative finance guy in real estate.
Okay.
So what he teaches is a strategy called Subject To, which is a way for you to take over people's existing financing on their properties.
Yeah.
So right now, interest rates, they're crazy, right? They're 6, 7, 8%.
Yep.
But you can find people where they have a 2.5%, 3.5% interest rate, but they can't service the debt. They're behind on their mortgage. Maybe they're facing foreclosure.
Yep.
There's a transaction called Subject To, which means I'm purchasing your property subject to the existing financing. So what people can do is they can actually deed you the property, and then I can service the debt without having to take over the debt. So I'm not assuming their financing. I'm just servicing it. So what that means is if they have their mortgage with Bank of America, Wells, Chase, whatever, the mortgage stays in their name and I keep paying and keep servicing that debt. So oftentimes you can get properties for sometimes 5%, 10% of the total purchase price value. So if it's a $200,000 property, we're looking to acquire it with maybe a $10,000 to $20,000 down payment. We acquire it on creative finance, and then we put a tenant in, whether we're going to do that as a long-term traditional rental or we're going to do a midterm rental, rent by the room, pad split, corporate rentals, assisted living facilities, or a short-term rental, you know, Airbnb, VRBO, whatever that strategy is, you're going to cash flow the property, and now you're picking up properties for really cheap. You can even get some of these properties for free. Sometimes if they're underwater on the equity, they'll just give you the property for free. So you can go out and acquire these properties. And so what I love about Pace's story, Pace Morby, is he's 41 now, and 6 years ago he was 35. And he lost everything when he was 35. He had, 44 rentals. He ended up losing like $2.5 million, like big loss, and lost everything. And he's got a really funny story. He didn't tell his wife about this when he was going through it. So she didn't even know at the time while he was going through all this, and he just kept it secret. But within 6 years, he's amassed a portfolio of about 2,500 rentals. He nets $1 million a month, and he's done that all with no cash out of his own pocket, no credentials, no credit, no banks, no nothing. And he's built that entire portfolio from scratch in the last 6 years based off of what he knows in these creative finance strategies. Also, you can do like seller finance deals. If people own their property free and clear, they can become the bank, and through a title company, they can create that promissory note, and they'll have, a lien on the property, but they can finance it directly. So you can negotiate directly with the seller for a small down payment, and then you make payments to them over time. So there's lots of ways to get real estate. A lot of people think, I don't have money to get in real estate. I need a lot of money. Well, you can actually get started with very little or no money. And that's where wholesaling comes into play, because with wholesaling, what we're doing there is we're just flipping contracts. So for anyone listening that doesn't know what wholesaling is, we go out, we negotiate with the property owner, we get a purchase and sale agreement, and then we take that agreement and we go sell that contract. We sell the rights of the contract. It's called an assignment, and we'll sell it to an actual fix and flip investor or a buy and hold investor. And people will pay 10, 15, 20, 30, 35,000 or more for these contracts on residential properties. And more recently, what we're trying to do is wholesale commercial, small multifamily, because they'll pay $100,000, $250,000. I've seen people make $1.5 million assignment on wholesaling commercial properties without putting any of their own money into the deal. They're just finding the deal, sourcing the deal, negotiating the deal. So you're doing a lot of legwork, but your value add is you're bringing it to the person that actually wants to take down that deal. So you're bringing them the deal on a silver platter. So wholesaling is a great way to generate cash without having a ton of cash. And so since I've kind of been rebuilding over the last year and a half from losing all my cash, I just jumped right in, like, let's get back into wholesaling. Let's start building the payment processing. Like, and I
Yeah.
just hustle.
That's insane.
And so, you know, it's been a journey getting back on my feet, and you know, I've probably paid as well just in the last year or so, maybe like $250,000 to $300,000 to lawyers
Oh my
just for all the lawsuits that I'm in.
Wow.
So it's like it's truly you know, I feel like these challenges are all blessings. I feel like it's all trials and tribulations. Again, if you look at the top business people, the people that have gone out and lost it all, like they typically, if you don't allow it to defeat yourself and play the victim card like you talked about earlier, like, oh, poor me, I'm just going to stop, it's over.
Right.
You use it as like, no, like, I'm not a victim of my life. I'm a warrior of my life. I'm a warrior of my circumstances. You can use that as leverage and you can become superhuman. Like, it's like, it can't kill me. It can't stop me.
Yeah.
So it's like all your inner talk, your inner monologue. It's like, I have really positive self-talk. I say, I'm awesome. Like, I can do this. Like, I can overcome this. Like, this isn't happening to me. It's happening for me. So I'm constantly phrasing everything as to my benefit, not to I'm a victim and poor me and my situation sucks and you know it's this person's fault, it's that person's fault. It's all looking in the mirror. It's like you versus you.
Mm-hmm.
You're literally in this game for yourself, and your perception is your reality. So everything that goes on in here, this is everything. Like the way that you view the world, the way that you view other people, the way that you view yourself, it's all controlled in here. And so if you can master your mind, you can master this game of life. And again, it's all about taking what people that have what you want to have and doing the exact same thing. They teach you in school that it's bad to copy.
Yeah.
It's bad to cheat off other people. In the real world, that's how you win.
Right.
You go find people that win and you do exactly what they do. It's like
Yeah.
if you're playing a game, like a video game or a board game, and you know that there's strategies that, you know, lose the game or they just go around the board, and then there's strategies that win the game, wouldn't you want to learn the strategy to like win the game? But it's
Right.
like that's how life is.
Right.
Like there's strategies that win the game, and there's strategies that like you drift and like, you know, you can have a good life. Like I'm not judging anyone. They, you know, everyone's free to their own stuff, and like some people just genuinely are chill. Like they don't want to do much and they're happy with that. That's cool. But for me, the way that I look at it is like, okay, I know that I have one life for certain because I'm here, and I know that it can be taken from me at any time. So any day that I wake up, it's a blessing to open my eyes in the morning, and I want to maximize the experience. So that way when I get to the end of my life, I can look back and say, hey, it was kind of crazy at times. Like there was times where, you know, I went super hard and, you know, it was very painful or whatever. But like I went out and took chances. I failed. I fell on my face. I made mistakes as a human. I tried to learn from those mistakes, made it, you know, tried to become a better man, a better person throughout my life. And like, it's genuinely something where I want to get to that point where I can look back and say, okay, as I check out and move on to the next phase, I'm at peace. Like I've lived. And I was watching a video last night, which was, it was really interesting. It was a snippet of like a mortician's podcast. And she was interviewing someone who works in like hospice or like people at the end of their life. And she was asking like, what is it that you see most of the time as people's biggest regrets in life? And she goes, well, typically I see like the people that haven't gone out and lived, like they're not ready to go. Like they're super like apprehensive, regretful. They feel like they have all this unfinished business. Mm-hmm. Why didn't I do this when I was younger? Why didn't I? And then you see the people that they have gone out, they have lived, and they're like, you know what? Like obviously I'm scared still. I'm about to pass on to this next phase and I'm about to die, but I'm okay. Like I've done everything that I needed to do in this life, and I'm at peace with the fact that I went out and lived. So it's like that can't be, for me, I can't think of anything worse than getting to the end of my life and being like, I totally just wasted this thing, this blessing that I was given. When you zoom out and you look at just from a cosmic standpoint, the blessing and the lottery ticket that we were all given to be here, to be alive at this time, with the things we have and the conveniences we have, and like this floating rock in the middle of space. And it's like they say your chance in being born is 1 in 400 trillion. The fact that everything connected with your mom and your dad, and like you were the fastest sperm or whatever, you got to the egg, and like, you know, you won the race, you Michael Phelps that bitch, and like, you know what I'm saying? Like you won that, and it's like you are here, like you're here, and you're probably not perfect because no one is, but it's like if you just go out and maximize what you can do, and I believe like help as many people as you can while you're here. That's like my biggest goals while I'm here is like as I succeed and as I build, I want to give back. I want to help people, build communities, teach people. And I've learned now that, you know, don't go fishing for other people. It's bad. And no amount of you wanting someone else to win is gonna make that happen.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot force someone across the finish line. You can't carry them across the finish line. It has to be done in their own mind. It has to be done in their own way. So you have to give people the skills, give people the, you know, the fishing rod, the techniques, all the things, teach them how to fish for themselves. And, you know, we're all learning as we go. I don't believe that anyone's perfect, but I try not to fault people. I never talk bad about other people. I genuinely just understand that we're all going through the same experience. It's a shared experience, and it's hard. Life is hard. So I don't want to make that harder for anybody else. I don't want to hate on other people. I don't want to get in their way. I don't want to try and pull down other people. I just want to lift up people, help them out as much as I can. And, you know, we all figure it out as we go. And when we check out, I'll be like, hey, I did what I could do while I was here, and I'm happy with the life and hopefully the impact that you leave behind. Because if you get to the end of your life and all you did was stack your chips and you didn't help anybody and you were super greedy and you were like that person that, you know, it was just me, okay, you're going to be that guy that no one shows up to your funeral and you left no impact. And it's like, what point is there to be the wealthiest person in the graveyard when you could leave behind an impact and you can help people and have, you know, thousands of people at your funeral potentially.
Right.
So, hey.
And I like that too, though, that you're like, hey, I went through all this stuff. Most people would be like, yeah, like you have to figure it out on your own. But you're like, no, I went through it. I really don't want you to suffer the same ways that I did. Yeah. So let me, you know, give you some of those tools. Let me help you. Let me mentor you in a way that, you know, you don't have to make those same mistakes that I made.
Exactly.
I mean, everyone's going to make mistakes, right, in this whole entire journey. But you kind of are like, let me, you know, I learned from this. Maybe don't do that. Maybe don't have crazy. All of these things happen to you.
Don't go crazy.
I guess, do you have any other questions before
no,
we
I
kind
thought
of
it was
wrap up?
very,
That
very
was like
deep,
insane.
Good.
Awesome.
I gave you guys everything. Like,
that was
deep.
insane.
We've been going for a minute. I was checking the time, make sure we're good here.
Like,
yeah, we're right on time.
I really think it was like up and down of entrepreneurship. Like,
yeah.
it was amazing.
But it's like both extremes of it, because I feel like especially with entrepreneurship, people always see, oh, like people could look at your Instagram and be like, oh, he did like
so
8 figures
the
on
winning
this business.
side.
He's so successful.
Yeah.
And then obviously, as you told us, it's like, do you know what the downside was?
Yeah.
Like, or all of the things you had to get to before you even got to that point. And then how once you even were at that point, it wasn't even like, okay, great, I'm going to chill, whatever. Like, no, it's then you ate shit after that.
Yeah. I think that's a realistic take on entrepreneurship. And it's my goal to normalize failure, because one thing that I've noticed is there's a lot of failure shaming in entrepreneurship and in life and in business, where if you lose, you're a loser, you're a failure, but it's like you're only celebrated after you lose than win.
Right.
But and then people go, oh, wow, it's so inspiring. But when you're just losing and you're failing, people are shaming you.
Yep.
They're leaving. Like you're
like,
seeing
this guy thinks he knows what he's doing.
I've saw, when I was on my ups or whatever, all these people came around out of nowhere. I had all these fake people around me wanting to ride my coattails, and then my business crashes and they all vanish and poof into thin air. And it's like, not all of them, but like you see who's truly like, damn, these people are straight up just fake. And it's like, that's inauthentic. And I think that it's because people idolize too much with like this, like on a pedestal of like the Instagram lifestyle of like, oh, this is perfect, like you only win. And it's like, that's just not reality.
I remember when I arrived in the US, I met an entrepreneur at an event, and I was talking about what I was doing, and I was doing good, I was happy, you know, like when you start making like $10,000 every month, you're like, hey, I made it,
Yeah.
And he was like, I got a question, have you crushed any businesses? I'm like, no. It's like, so you're not an entrepreneur. I'm like, okay, got it. And then I did, and I meet it again, and it's like, okay, now you
know.
You earned your stripes.
That's exactly. It's what it is. It's what it is. So it's been a pleasure, guys. I really appreciate you having me on, and I'm happy to keep sharing these stories. Maybe we'll circle back in a year or two.
I was gonna say, I think we're gonna need like a part 2.
Yeah, part 2
and
for sure.
All of the things that you're doing now and all of that stuff.
We'll do it down in Miami.
Yeah.
No, good for me.
Yeah, that works for us.
Yeah. Perfect.
Well, thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Mike. We really appreciate you.
Absolutely.
Thanks for sharing everything.
You got it. Thank you, guys.
Of course.
It's a wrap.
It's good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Wow.